Hi, I'm Carrie, and welcome to episode 17 of the Sego Fibers podcast.
Gravel road, I've been asked to slow down. Fireplace, do you know how? Piles of paper, my desk is out. Who will care for the world out? Rest with me, close to curtains, brew some herbal tea.
Hi, welcome and welcome back. Like I said, my name's Carrie, and this is a knitting podcast where I talk to you all about yarn and projects. And this is kind of a special episode because it's been a while since I've made a podcast and there's a lot to catch up on. So even though I haven't made a podcast pretty much all summer and fall, I've been really busy with other things and I'd love to share them with you. So first I'll give like a quick life update on what I've been up to, and then I'll talk about finished objects. I have one work in progress, and then I have some very exciting news about some yarn, and this will be kind of like a shop update section. And after that, we'll talk about a giveaway because we've hit 1,000 subscribers and I really can't believe it. So I want to say thank you to you. Since we're talking about a lot of different things in this episode, I'm including chapters. So if you want to jump around or go to something specific, just look in the little bar or in the description box and you can click on whatever you're interested in. All right, so let's jump in with a life update. So we did a lot of traveling this summer and fall. I think right after my last podcast episode, I think I was getting ready to go to our annual 4th of July trip up in Idaho. And so yeah, we got to go there and hang out with family and play with fireworks and do all sorts of fun things. And then later in July, we got to go up to Canada to see a friend get married. And so that was really lovely. It was the most beautiful wedding I've ever seen, and I'm really happy we got to go. We're really excited for them. And then kind of on the way back, we went through Glacier National Park, which I've never been to before. And so that was really cool to see. And then in August, we went back up to Idaho to go camping with my husband's parents, and that was a nice getaway. And then this fall, my oldest started preschool. So that's been kind of a big change for us, but it's been really good. My son goes 3 mornings a week, and that's been like a really nice balance for us. So he's our first to go to school, and yeah, it's a good fit. He's excited and loving it. And then our last big trip was in October, and we had a big family vacation up in Maine, which we'd never been to before, so it was really cool. We got to go see the changing of the leaves and check out the rocky coast and lighthouses and all sorts of things. So through all the travel and change, I was still really into knitting, and I made a lot of stuff. And I'll make sure to share all of it with you. It just probably won't be in this episode. I'm planning on making a everything I knit in 2023 video at some point, probably early in 2024 or something. Yeah, and so whatever I missed, I'll catch up on in that video. Other things I've been up to have been, let's see, making clay charms with my kids and exploring sewing a little bit and just kind of mixing up what I do to relax. So typically I do all my crafting stuff during my kids' nap time in the afternoon. So I'll have a couple hours in which to do something fun, typically knitting. And I feel like for a few years now, it's pretty much always been knit and watch knitting podcasts, which I've loved. But eventually it got to a point where I was just doing it because it was the default. And I realized, you know, I don't feel like I have another option. I feel like I'm doing this because I have to, because I always do. And then it didn't become fun anymore. And so I was like, okay, how do I change this up? Because I know I like this, but I want to feel like I have options and I could do other things if I want to, which I can. So I was like, okay, so I'm still gonna knit because I love it and there's stuff I want to make, but I'm gonna swap out the knitting podcast and listen or do something else. So checked out some Great British Baking Show because I love it. But mostly I've been listening to audiobooks now, and I am loving it. I've gone through several books already. So my library has like a digital audiobook thing where you can just go on your phone, download one of their audiobooks for free, listen, check it back in, whatever. So it's been fantastic because audiobooks are typically pretty expensive, and so I like to use the library because it's free, and if you have to wait a few weeks for a book, oh well, there's something else you can listen to in the meantime. So it's great. I've pretty much been exclusively listening to Brandon Sanderson books because, I don't know, he's my favorite author. So if you're interested in fantasy, check him out. He's really fun. And I think this is pretty unusual for an author, but he spans genres. So some of his books are for young adults. Most of them I think are for adult. Some are like fast-paced action books, and some are like long epics. And so you get a really good variety, and they're set in all sorts of different places. And yet they're all within the same universe, and they kind of feed into each other, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so I've really been enjoying listening to books and knitting at the same time. And I feel like it especially helps like color work go faster because I'm not having to watch a video and look at a chart at the same time and go back and forth, so it works out. So I actually haven't watched any knitting podcasts in a few months, so it feels pretty weird to be disconnected, I'll say. However, it feels pretty good to just know I'm choosing what I'm wanting to do and not doing it just because I feel like I always do it. So that's been really nice. I still really enjoy knitting podcasts, and I'm really looking forward to watching them again. It's just not quite yet, and that's fine. I think I'll start watching them again in December when Vlogmas rolls around. I really like Vlogmas, and especially CamijoKnit's Vlogmas. So if you haven't seen her before, or her Vlogmases, she does a great job and they're really fun. So I think that one's going to be my treat to jump back into. So I think that's about it for life update and random stuff. So let's jump into some finished objects. My first finished object is the Snowy Forest by Midori Hirose, and this was a special sample knit I did for Yarn Nouveau. I talked about it in my last podcast, and it was really almost finished, and so I finished it pretty soon after the last podcast, and I gave it to Alicia from Yarn Nouveau, and so she has it. I don't have it here in person to show you, but I have some pictures of it. The yarn I used for it was Yarn Nouveau Merino Sport and Yarn Nouveau Suri Alpaca Lace, and it's her newer alpaca lace base, which has more yardage, which is really nice. And it's in the color Ironwood. And so here's a swatch of it, so you can get a sense of the color. It is so incredibly soft. I highly recommend it. It's also very warm. This is one of the softest fabrics I have ever felt. It's incredible. It was interesting. So Alicia picked out the pattern and she chose the size and gave me the yarn for it and everything because she wanted to use it in her shop for the Flock Fiber Festival that happened in August. By the way, it's happening again next August in Seattle, and they already have like some preliminary info on their website if you want to check it out. It looks like a really fun festival. Yeah, so the pattern. It's a really interesting style. So the yoke is really deep. So the armholes like don't start to like here or something, and it's really wide. I'm really glad I got to make it as a sample, because if I had to go out and buy the yarn and pick out the pattern and make it for myself, that felt like a pretty big risk for a shape that I've never worn before. So it's nice to be able to try out a new construction shape and style without the commitment of saying, oh, now I have to wear it. Now, because the armholes are so deep on this sweater, it would be pretty tricky to put a jacket on top of it. However, it is very warm, so I think it's perfect for around the house in the winter, fall, spring. It's also perfect to wear out and about in fall and spring, or even in the winter, depending on how cold it is where you live. But it really would be perfect for around the house, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think I would really like to make this pattern again for myself, just kind of wear like a cozy type sweater, because the chunky cables are gorgeous and really pretty. The yarn is beautifully soft, and it just feels like you're wearing a blanket. It's really cozy. So I could just imagine sitting by the fire, wrapped up in that sweater, and just like, oh, that'd be really cozy. So like I said, I got yarn in exchange for making the sweater for her, and because I made one of the medium or bigger sizes, I got several skeins in return. The first few skeins I got in this color. This is Bruff, and this is her Yak DK base. It is 60% superwash merino wool, 12% silk, and 20% yak. It has 231 yards per 100 grams. It's so shiny and soft. I love this color gold. Just so rich. And I got some Drops Kid Silk to pair with it. And together, I plan on making sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I'm really excited about this, and like there's some knits I need to finish before Christmas, but I really, really want to make this. It's so pretty. And then the other yarn I got is in her single yak merino base, and it's a single ply, 65% superwash merino wool, 20% silk, 15% yak, and 523 yards per 120 grams. And this is a fingering weight. And so this is the color Lydia. Side note, one of my daughters is named Lydia, and so I, of course, had to get this. And it's a color I absolutely love. And then this color is Wickham in the same base. And so I got 2 of Lydia and 1 of Wickham. And with this yarn, I plan on making the Robinia Light Sweater by Ann Vinsel. I'm going to pair them with mohair as well. This is, oh, I'll give you color numbers. So Drops Kid Silk to pair with this one. I think this one was, the color name was Curry, but it's color number 30. And then the Kid Silk I got to go with Lydia is color number 40. And I think it was called Pink Pearl or something like that. And then I'm still looking for the Kid Silk color to go with this one. So if you have any suggestions of a mohair color that you think would work with this, let me know. Like it's kind of, it's in between red and purple. Here's how they all kind of go. So I'm not quite sure. I haven't quite found the perfect one. So yeah, that's how that project wrapped up, and I'm pretty excited about it. For my next finished object is this one. This is the Anouka Tank by Florence Sperling, and I did my first 2 test knits during the break. The first one I'll talk about in my wrap up for the year, and then this was my second one, and I was really excited to do it. So I'll kind of stand up briefly, but that's kind of what it looks like. Yeah, so this was really fun. I was excited to work on this test knit because it had skills that I hadn't done before. So I've done color work in the past with like mittens and things, and I've made one color work sweater before, but I've never done color work flat, and I've never done intarsia. And so those were 2 new things that were part of this project that I got to try out, and I'm really happy about it. So this was my swatch. Let's see. So you can kind of see, like, I have 2, this is like a weird section where I've got blue and yellow and then pink and yellow. That's because, you know, I got my colors wrong and the swatch, so another reason why making a swatch can be helpful, because it's like, oh, I was using the wrong color for the whole, okay. And so, yeah, just trying out different things. Double checking that the colors, I like the colors together. So I made the size 2, and I should have paid a little more attention to the schematic. She didn't have a picture of it on a person when the test knit came out, and so I only saw it flat, and I had a hard time telling how cropped or not it was. So I should have paid more attention to the schematic about like lengths and things, but okay. It is cropped, and I think if you wear it like this, it does work. And I think if you had like high-waisted pants and just wore it like a tank top, which is one way to do it, especially if you use like her recommended yarn, which is mostly silk, I think that would be super cute. But the way I initially intended to wear it, like, I probably should have added like this much more to the length. Oh well, that's okay. I think if I wear it like this, it'll be okay. But anyway, that's on me to pay more attention next time. So the yarn for this is fingering weight, and I decided to use traditional colorwork yarn. So like 2-ply 100% wool fingering weight yarn. The main color I used is Cascade 220 fingering. This is their non-superwash, and the color Walnut Heather. And I used 74 grams. And this color is Biche Bouche Le Petit Lamb's Wool in the color Candy. I really love this color. This is the one that I use like for the dots in here, and it's what appears as blue in here. It's really fun. It has lots of nice color shifts. And then the yellow is also Biche Bouche Le Petit Lamb's Wool in the color Yellow Mustard. I love how rich and warm that is. And then the pink is Jamieson and Smith, the color FC50 mix. And the kind of burgundy purple color is also Jamieson and Smith in the FC55 mix. So that's how that turned out. And if you're interested in how much yardage or whatever I used, there's a link down below in the description box with a link to my Ravelry project page, so you can kind of go in there and see, oh yeah, this many grams for this color, this many for that. The only thing I changed about the pattern was adding 4 rows to the body before I split for the armholes. So yeah, and I actually kind of like that because this was an accident, but it kind of finished out the pattern nicely at the top. So this was a really fun and interesting knit. I learned a lot, and it was fun. So to kind of introduce the new skills I needed to learn, I decided to knit the back first, which is only colorwork flat without any intarsia. So it's like, okay, I've never done colorwork flat. Let's figure it out, and I'll do that part first. And turns out it's really easy, and I don't mind it at all. So it doesn't have to be a bear. So now I know, like, oh, if I see a pattern that has flat colorwork, it's like, sure, I like doing that. It's fun. It adds variety. It's not annoying. Let's do it. So that kind of opens up new worlds, which I'm real happy about. With the intarsia for the front, so it's like you have yarns for this panel, yarns for this panel, yarns for this panel, and so on. So you've got like a spread of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I had like 10 balls in front of me. And so for the front, I decided like, okay, I'm only gonna knit this at a table. And so I had each color pair in a little baggie. So I had 5 baggies of yarn. And so I was like, okay, so I'm doing this one, work on here, switch it, twist it with the next color, then knit with that pair, switch those 2, then keep going. And yeah, so it was kind of a lot to keep track of, but if you have a system for it, it's really not that bad. The front is slower than the back because of the intarsia, but it's also really interesting and satisfying. Yeah, it wasn't near as scary as I thought it would be. I would definitely do intarsia again. And intarsia with colorwork was just fine. Yeah, it's just a matter of twisting your yarns before you keep going and being okay with a bit of tangle. So yeah, it was really fun, and I look forward to doing intarsia again. I didn't look up any YouTube videos on how to do it. I just read the instructions and was like, okay, I'll just try it and see how it goes, and it worked out fine. So the pattern is now available on Ravelry, and I hope you check it out. It's been really fun to see all the different testers with their versions and their color choices. You can really get some cool variety. So that's it for finished objects. I have one work in progress, which is really almost finished, but I'll show you. And here's my swatch for it. Any guesses? You probably all know what it is. It's a Cargill sweater by Clow, or the Crayabea here on YouTube. And this is a gift knit for my niece. And so, let's see, what have we so far? So we have most of the sweater. The body is done, and the only thing left to do are the cuffs on the sleeves. So I decided to knit the body in both sleeves before doing any of the hems or cuffs or anything, just so I could try it on and just double check, like, do I want to lengthen or shorten anything before I do the hem? And so finally, once I did the body and I did the sleeves, I tried it on and I was like, okay, I'm happy with that. Let's do the hem. So I did that, and I did a tubular bind off, or a sewn Italian bind off. I'm not sure what the difference is, but I'm happy with that. And yeah, so I made the size 3 for this, where it turns out we're the same size, and so it was actually pretty nice because I could try it on and be like, hey, do I want to make this longer? How's the yoke fitting? And being the same size as my niece's, you know, worked out. So the yarn I used for this is HiKoo Simplicity. This is the color Edgy Eggplant. I think it's coming out a little bit more pinky red on screen. It's a little more purplish in person. I did modify this and I added like 2 repeats of this kind of dip stitch pattern. So I made the yoke that much longer. Because when I finished the yoke and I split for sleeves, I knit about like 1 inch on each sleeve and the body, or maybe on one sleeve and the body. Then I tried it on, and it felt like it was really high under the arm, and I'm like, like I've made clothes before where the armhole isn't deep enough and it's really uncomfortable and annoying and you really want to take it off, and it's like, okay, I don't want to go there with a gift knit because you can't really, like, it's harder to fix in that case. So like, okay, I'm going to err on the side of making it a little too deep, so I added a couple of repeats. And interestingly, as I finished the sleeves and the body and tried everything on, it's like, oh, I probably didn't need to do that. So it's not too deep. It's still fine. And it's still comfortable, but it probably wasn't necessary. I just think it's interesting that the weight of the sweater, I think, pulled it down enough. So I don't think you would need to alter the pattern like I did. But it's also not bad that I made the yoke a little bit deeper, because then if she wants to wear like a shirt underneath, there's plenty of room for that. Plus, like, there's less friction there maybe, and less deodorant getting it on it maybe, like, who knows. So it should be okay. It's definitely not too deep to be annoying. But yeah, so nearly done with this. That was fun. This was my main project in Maine. That was unintended. So yeah, I should just need like an afternoon or so to finish the cuffs on that, and it'll be ready. Yes. So that's all I have for knitting projects this episode. Let's jump into some exciting yarn news. All right, so I think this is what I'm most excited to talk about this episode. It's finally time to talk about a project I've been working literally all year long. So back in 2020, during COVID and all the craziness, I somehow learned that dyeing yarn was a thing. And I was like, oh, I really want to do that. And so I learned about like, oh, how does it work? What do you use? Like, how do you do it? Where do you get yarn? Like all these things. And that was really interesting. So after learning about that, I was like, what more can you learn about this? How deep can you go? How local can you go? And so then I started researching like, how is yarn made? And where do sheep come from? And well, maybe not that, but like where can you source wool? And can you do it locally? Does Utah have anything here that I could use? Like, wouldn't it be cool if one day I could make a truly local custom yarn and then I could have it made and then I could dye it and then I could share it with the world? Like, wouldn't that be cool? And 2023 is finally the year this is happening. I'm so excited. So till now, I've been buying yarn from like the bulk wholesale people, and that's worked out really well. It's beautiful yarn. It's great for dyeing. There's lots of options there. I was just really curious to try how do I make it local, breed specific, etc. like that. So last year I was looking around for like various farmers in Utah. So I live in Salt Lake City and it's too urban to have farms as far as I know. If you somehow know of a flock of sheep in Salt Lake City, you can let me know. But anyway, I've broadened my idea of local to my state, Utah. And so there's actually a lot of sheep here. So the kind of wool I was looking for was really soft, but also had some texture. I love Merino, but I think it's really interesting to try other breeds too. And there's a lot of really nice fine wools and really soft yarn. And I like exploring different breeds and learning about new ones and that sort of thing. So the ideal kind of fleece I was looking for was really soft, but still had some texture to make it interesting. So if Merino is like smooth and buttery soft, I'm looking for velvety, squishy soft, if that makes sense. And I found a farmer in Moab who has CVM sheep. And CVM stands for California Variegated Mutant. And if you're curious, this book talks about a whole bunch of different kinds of sheep. And that is the CVM. And they make beautiful yarn. I'm really excited to have gotten a couple of fleeces from her. And my idea for this yarn was to get 2 fleeces of different colors, one a light, one a dark, and then blend them together to make a nice heathered and nuanced kind of yarn. So this is how the yarn looks caked up. It's really fun. Oh, to talk a little bit more about how we got here. I'm jumping ahead. So yes, I found a farmer in Moab, and Moab is right by Arches National Park. It's gorgeous. Definitely recommend going there. It's a beautiful place to hike. It's really cool. And so the lady I got the wool from, she loves her animals so much. You can really tell like she cares about them a lot. And they all have special names. She has a thing for like ancient names, and so the sheep that I got the dark fleece from, his name is Djoser, which is like an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. And so the sheep I got the white wool from, his name is Job from the Bible. And so it was just really interesting. And I think all of her sheep have interesting names like that. And I think she even has like alpaca and other breeds of sheep and all sorts of things. And this is kind of like a hobby farm for her. She does other work in the community for her main job. But anyway, she's done this for a long time. She talked to me on the phone like a lot, just answering questions, teaching me about different things. And it was a really cool experience to work with her and pick out the wool. And yeah, I'm just excited to do it again, honestly. Then once I got the wool, I wanted to spin it as locally as possible as well. And there's a yarn mill here in Salt Lake City called Spinderella's, and they're a small family-owned business. It's just like this is their main thing, and they have a yarn mill in their house, and it's like this is them, and it's really cool to support them. But yeah, so this is how it turned out. This one is what I have most of. It's the heathered yarn, And so this has both the kind of pearl white wool and the dark brown. It does read as gray, so it's like a warm gray, I would say. And then this is the chocolate brown. And it was interesting to kind of see the locks of wool side by side. The chocolate brown has a tighter crimp, and then the white one had a little looser crimp. And so what that means is that this brown one is a little plumper and it's a bit softer. I mean, honestly, this is still really soft, but if you compare them, this one is a little softer. And so for the specs of the yarn, I would say this one is a versatile DK worsted weight. I've knit several swatches of this and it really works well at a variety of gauges, and I'll talk more about that. And this one, because of the crimp, it came out a little bit plumper, and so I'd say this one's more of a true worsted, but they both have similar yardage. They are 220 yards per 100 grams, and that's how they look together. And there is a little bit of thick and thin, but it's not dramatic. They're both 2-ply, and you will find a little bit of vegetable matter, like bits of hay in there. There's not a lot of it, and when you do find it, it's pretty small. But honestly, I think that gives it some charm. Oh, and it's probably self-explanatory, but since this is a farm yarn, it's non-superwash. It wasn't treated in any way. It's as natural as it comes. This yarn has just been washed, spun, and sometimes dyed. And now's the part where I really nerd out and get excited about the swatches. So this swatch came out to 21.5 stitches per 4 inches, and I think it's really beautiful. It's not too dense, it has a really nice feel, and yeah, I like the texture of it. Different people will get the same gauge with different needles, but I got a 21.5 stitch gauge with 4mm. And then when I used a 5mm yarn, I got this swatch, and this one I believe was 19 stitches per 4 inches. This one's my favorite. I just love how light and airy it is. And it's still not see-through. And then for this one, I used 5.5mm needles. And I think it also came out to around 19 stitches or so. It wasn't dramatically different, but it does seem a little airier for some reason. Maybe just the row gauge changed. Not really sure. But yeah, the big thing is, swatch, but that's the ballpark. So recommended needles for 5mm, recommended gauge 21 to 19 stitches seems ideal. Out of curiosity, I paired it with a mohair, and I used this mohair to swatch with it just because I had it around. I don't think I like how marled it looks. I'm kind of curious if there was a mohair that matched it a little bit better, if it would look less marled and not take away so much from the yarn. I kind of feel like this yarn gets lost in the mohair. It makes a really nice fabric and it feels great. I think you lose the variation with the mohair. So that's these two. And I also decided to dye a couple of colors. So the first color I dyed up is this really pretty kind of chartreuse green. I'm so excited about it. There's definitely like more faded and more brighter moments, and that because you get like the tonality of the hand dyed experience, and I think it's really fun. So not only do you get some nuance from the heathered yarn, you get some nuance from the tonal dyeing, and yeah. So I have at least a sweater's quantity of this color, and the other color I dyed is this pretty purpley pink mauve color. I definitely have a soft place in my heart for pinky mauves. They are my favorite. So I also have at least a sweater's quantity of this color. And as far as projects to knit with it, I created a bundle on Ravelry of a whole bunch of patterns that you could make with this yarn. And my favorite one at the moment is the Lulu Slipover by Petite Knit. It just came out and I think it would be really cute. I also think like more basic, oversized, comfy sweaters would look great with this texture. Like I would just love like a big plain sweater in that. And that's the big thing with any of these patterns. Like I did the best I could just by reading the specs of the pattern, knowing the specs of the yarn, what would be a good gauge or match and that kind of thing. It's really up to your swatch to know if it's the best fit. So yeah, check out the pattern, see if you find any in there you like. So this is the yarn I've been dreaming about making for a long time now. And if you're interested in checking it out, it will be in my Etsy shop on this date. And you can check out my local Utah CVM yarn as well as some other fun things in the shop. As far as what else is in there, I have a few skeins of this hand-dyed yarn that I did. It's called Cherry Amaretto, and these are the specs. It's a fingering weight merino nylon, and yeah. I had fun making that one. It looks just like one of my favorite ice cream flavors, so that's why I named it that. And then the other yarn I have is this really rich, beautiful brown. It has mauve undertones, and I really like it. This one is another fingering weight. It's a 2-ply 80/20, and it's called Truffle. And I made a bunch of fun clay charms with my kids over the break. And so I'll put some stitch marker and progress keeper sets as well. Here's an example of some of them. There's lots more, but yeah. So here's like some of the colors. And I guess what I mean by I made these with my kids, I have a whole bunch of polymer clay and I let them pick out whatever colors they want to pick. And they wad them up into balls, and then once they're done, I will divide up the balls into like 4 or 5 smaller ones, then I'll roll them into cylinders, bake them, and add the hardware and put like a resin glaze and stuff on there. So that's been a really fun project to do with them. So thank you for listening to my yarn story and all about the shop update. Now let's talk about the giveaway. So I've done a giveaway once before when we hit 100 subscribers, and that was really cool. And so I would love to do another one now that we've hit 1,000, which is crazy. So thank you everyone who has subscribed. It means a lot, and I love all of the interactions we've had here on YouTube. I love it when you comment, and it's just like this podcast is a really fun opportunity for me to just talk about what I enjoy and what I love. I like knitting podcasts because I'm confident like if you're here, you're actually somewhat interested because you're choosing to be here. It's no big deal. Like if you're not interested, you just go somewhere else and it's fine. It's nice knowing that the people who are here are actually interested. And so I feel like, oh, I can talk as much about yarn and knitting as I want without thinking I'm boring people, because if people are bored, they'll just leave, and that's okay. So thank you for being here and joining me on this fun journey. I really love making podcasts, and getting ready for this one just reminded me how much I truly enjoy this. And it's just so much fun to talk about projects and share things with you and show you yarn and colors and talk about experiences and life and whatever. And it's just fun to share what you love, you know? And anyway, so back in episode 14, I talked about some colorwork cardigans. I was going on this great hunt looking for my favorite cardigan pattern, whatever that would be. And I came across the Rundt dalen cardigan by Kristin Wiola, and I fell in love with it. I was like, wow, this is gorgeous. When I think of colorwork Norwegian cardigan, it's this one. Like, this embodies it for me. And so I'm like, oh, how do I get this pattern? So I look at, it's like, okay, it's in a book. How do I get this book? It's only in Norwegian. That's okay. There's Google Translate. I can figure it out. I can wing it. And then it's like, okay, how do I get this Norwegian book? You have to be in Norway. I can't find it anywhere. Side note, you can buy this in other countries. It's just really difficult to get if you're in the US. And so I was like, how do I get this book? I can't seem to get this anywhere. But since then, the designer has come out with an English ebook that includes this pattern. So yes, no Google translating. It's already in English, and it's in an ebook that I don't have to ship to me. And so shipping's not a big charge, and it's great. So the book is called 1 Year with Wiola Cardigans by Kristin Wiola Ødegård. And it has several really gorgeous patterns. And I think it might not only be cardigans, but it's mostly cardigans, and they're all really pretty. I'm very excited to knit them. Since this is such a special ebook, I thought I would give it away as a prize now that we've reached 1,000 subscribers. So in order to enter, just leave a comment below telling me what you're really looking forward to this fall and winter season. Love to hear about it, and yeah, I'll use a random number generator just to pick a winner. And in the next episode, I'll be on here and I'll say the winner is, and I'll announce it. And then at that point, I'll show my email and you can email me and we'll figure out how to get you the ebook. So yeah, I hope that's as exciting to you as it is to me. And I'm looking forward to knitting out of that book. So I think that about wraps it up for this podcast. Thank you for being here and listening to me talk. It's just so much fun to be here again. I really love this and sharing all the things. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and a very beautiful holiday season. I will see you next time. Happy knitting.
Close the curtain, brew some herbal tea.